welcome back again to the Human Ecology Project with Bill and I, and our guest today, fantastically, we're so excited to share with you, Laurence Candy, who actually is a dairy farmer, a former dairy farmer in Dorset, England. Now, Laurence transformed his family's Northwood Farm into the UK's first certified biocyclic vegan standard farm, which we'll be talking about. And I mean, incredible to say that he was the first farmer in the UK to be certified under this biocyclic vegan standard, and that was way back 3, 4 years ago, 2022, I think. So that
Yes,
involves,
yes,
yeah,
2022.
that involves farming without any animal inputs. And currently, Lawrence is running the farm on a stock-free basis. He's growing crops like oats and wheat and fava beans, and he's a huge driving force to bring about change through a mix of personal, ethical, and environmental concerns. So, I mean, it's music to our ears. So, welcome, welcome, Lawrence.
Oh, good afternoon, Marlene and Bill. Thank you for inviting me. Great to
Thank
be here.
you. So, uh, to begin with, Lawrence, some of the people who are followers of our videos, uh, I know that most of them, if not all of them, are eat organic food. I wonder if you could
Yeah.
just talk a little bit about the distinctions that you see between things that are labeled organic and the veganic approach that you're using.
Well, the simple definition of veganic agriculture is stock-free organic farming. So it's organic farming with obviously without a commercial livestock enterprise. And the other requirements is not to use animal derivatives. So that's animal manures and their byproducts, which, for example, blood, fish, and bone meal and feather waste for fertilization. So when we say organic, we're trying to extract the conventional organic system away from any form of animal exploitation or harm. It's what we sort of call a post-lethal form of agriculture and horticulture.
And so you're working in a way that's quite different from what mostly people are defining as regenerative farming, right?
Yes, I know there's a lot of talk about regenerative farming. I'll go and I'll discuss that in a minute. Um, Pre World War II, most farms were by default organic. In my grandfather's day, um, we couldn't synthetic fertilizers and pesticides and all the array of chemicals had simply not been invented.
Right.
So organic, we were organic, but obviously by default. So post World War II, we had the Green Revolution. So that revolutionized agriculture, and it was the catalyst for the intensive agriculture. So a group of farmers were concerned about the way farming was going. So the Soil Association, headed by Lady Balfour at the time, was formed just after the war. So this is how organic farming officially came about in the UK. So through the concerns of the Green Revolution. So that's where we are at, and that's how organic agriculture is to the present day.
I think many people don't realize that, I was involved in purchasing organic food in the 1960s in America. We had a small food company. And we were always surprised when we went and talked to farmers how many of them were actually conforming to organic standards. But that's just because the way their grandfathers and their fathers had farmed.
Yes, it's you've got to remember with farming we have a what you call an exploitive phase and a regenerative phase, because after all, any form of food production, be it livestock production or plant-based production, you're extracting nutrients out of the system. It's technically not a closed loop system. So in order to replenish those nutrients, we have to have what you call the regenerative phase. So in traditional organic farming, it's what we call it mixed farming, where farmers you have a livestock enterprise or quite a few livestock enterprises and also a cropping enterprise. So I'll take my grandfather, for example. On his farm, he had a dairy herd, some pigs, and also an arable enterprise, wheat, barley, and sweets and potatoes. So any waste products from the arable enterprises went to the livestock. And being a dairy farmer, milk is a perishable product. So, for instance, if he had taken it to the local railway station where the milk would go to London, and that, say, for that day they didn't want the milk, he would bring it back in his churns and then feed it to his pigs. So that's why most farmers in the past traditionally kept livestock for that reason, is to recycle everything that was produced on the farm into some saleable product. So that's the whole ethos of conventional organic farming.
Right.
So the controversy with organic farming is obviously we're taking the animals out of the system. So how do we close the loop? How do we maintain the fertility in the soil? So we do that in quite a few ways. We can either use legume fallows, we can use cover crops, and we can also use intercropping and companion cropping. So for all those various systems, we're sort of bringing back organic matter and nutrients into the soil and sort of replenishing it that way. So it
Fantastic.
can be done, yeah.
Yeah, and it would be great if you could share some information with the people around the world about the biocyclic soils and the relationship to nutrient density and food from that, Laurence.
Yes, I will. I should tell your viewers, in the UK, we have two organic standards. Obviously, the Biocyclic Vegan Standard, which is mainly based in Europe, and also the Vegan Organic Network Standard, which is solely in the UK and now actually in North America as well. I joined the Biocyclic Vegan Standard simply because the Vegan Organic Standard didn't allow livestock farmers.
Right.
So most arable farmers keep livestock. So you've automatically stopped. That's a barrier for any organic farmer to transition out of organics into veganics. So that's the reason I chose the Biocyclic Standard.
Okay.
It allows a 5-year transition period, which is critical for a successful transition. So that's the two standards we have. My standard is, as you say, is centered around biocyclic soil. So this is based on the creation of a high humus content compost, mainly used in horticultural enterprises, or high humus arable soils, which is obviously the format I'm following, being a combinable crop farm. Humus is created through the humification of soil organic matter into a stable carbon source. So if we can increase our humus content in our soils, we're creating a sort of a stable source of fertility and organic matter. And crucially, this humus contains free organic carbon compounds, which is humans, humic acid, and fulvic acid. And the benefits to farmers for those three compounds is increased soil nutrient availability. So when we make biocyclic compost and biocyclic soils, we're increasing the availability particularly of ammonia, magnesium, calcium, and sodium, those key plant nutrients. We also, at the same time, improved the soil aggregation and increased water storage. So with the drought conditions we've been facing, it's imperative that we increase our buffering capabilities. And also it increases carbon sequestration as well, which is again critical for climate change. These acids also increase microbiological activity. Again, the soil biome consists mainly of organotrophs, which are cellular animals or organisms which contain organic carbon. So without that availability of organic carbon, we can't simply increase the population of the soil biome, which is critical. So and also controls nitrogen availability. So there's lots of benefits in creating high humus content composts and soils to biocyclic farmers, and indeed any farmer, to be honest. The way Northwood Farm is going about this, I had my soil tested before I started organic conversion back in 2019. The problem with modern day agricultural soils, they've been intensively cultivated. They've received large doses of artificial fertilizers and pesticides. So this has dramatically altered the ratio of fungi to bacteria in the soil. Farmers are looking for an ideal ratio of 4:1. That 4:1 ratio of fungi to bacteria gives us the optimum soil health conditions. So when I first started, the ratio to fungi to bacteria was in the region of 1:9, and it is predominantly high nitrate bacterial dominated soil. So the disadvantages I was having from that type of soil environment was nutrient lockup. It creates poor micro aggregates, so I was getting problems with soil compaction, flooding, etc. So in order for me to address that balance, to get it to that magic figure 4:1, I've been doing the following things. I've been chopping and returning all my crop residues, the straw, back to the soil.
Well done.
So that's a great source of organic matter. I've been topping and returning all my mature grassland back to the soil through I have a 2-year legume fallow period. So I go out in about the middle of July when the grasses have seeded. I've got lots of brown material there, so I sort of chop that up, ready for the mycorrhizal fungi. I'm also spraying humic and fulvic acids onto the crops to encourage the fungi to reproduce as well. So, and I'm also looking to introduce wood chip, which is I expect your viewers have heard of Ian Tolhurst. Ian's using a product called Ramal wood chip, which is basically young branches of wood, particularly willow, which have gone through a wood chipper, and then we sprinkle those back onto the soil. So that's as a catalyst, a supercharger for organic.
If you get any vacancies, I would like to apply for a job.
Sorry,
If you get
Marley.
any vacancies, I would like to apply for a job.
Oh, guys, yes, please do. Yes. So that's the relationship between soil health and the critical fungi to bacteria ratios. And of course, with the poor soil health, I'm in an organic co-op called Organic Arable, and I found out that one of the farmer members is a junior doctor, and he's been looking into the new.
Fantastic.
He's on the same journey as myself.
Fantastic.
His farm was an intensive arable farm, so he's as I've just said, he's going down the same pathway of rectifying all these faults with his soil, and he's been testing a lot of plants, or his produce, I should say, and he's come up with these quite concerning facts. Actually, we've seen a 48% decrease in calcium, a 60% decrease in magnesium, 50% decrease in iron, and a 49% decrease in copper. So I was just going to hand this back to you, Marlene, because I'm no nutritionist, but I would say
Yeah.
that's cause for concern.
It's desperate. It's desperate, and that's why organic farming is so important. I mean, obviously, the philosophy that Bill and I have taught and lived by, we use a lot of sea vegetables in our diet because we're
Yes,
teaching the principles of metabolics, Oriental philosophy. So for us, it's wonderful because we're getting fantastic minerals from the sea vegetables, which most people aren't eating. But yes, I mean, in the last 50 years, Bill will tell you, he was involved in farming in the 60s.
yes,
The depletion of nutrients in the soil is devastating. And of course, we talk about what we teach in nutrition. The soil in here is what is coming in from the soil out there. So, the gut biome and the soil biome, without
are
good
closely
soil
related.
biome, it's impossible to have a good, healthy biome. Bill will tell you a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, one of the things, and I'm sure you're aware of this, but there's been really a lot of research that's been done that shows that the phytonutrients
Yeah.
in things that are grown organically is just markedly different, measurably different
Yeah.
than plants that are grown by standard measures, and that's really important because that gives the body the opportunity to create the nutrients that it doesn't have, to create the vitamins that may be missing in your diet, etc. And that's really important. So the flavonoids and all of those compounds, that's where you get them, is from really good organically grown food. And we've been always, for decades, been trying to convince people that if we don't support organic growers, uh, other things that you try to do in terms of healthy eating just aren't going to be as beneficial.
And the
You know,
veganic growers, sorry,
if you weren't, of course, you're interested and rightfully so in building a living soil. That's one thing. But on a completely selfish point of view, right, what you're eating, that's what's going to feed, as Marlene said, your internal biome, and that's what's important. Plus the fact that the poor effect of all of the pesticides and herbicides and all of the other biochemicals that are used in farming, you're pushing those off to the side, right?
yeah. And what the likes of the work that you're doing, Lawrence and Ian Tolhurst and Dan and all these guys, I mean, the world needs to get behind what you people are doing because it's the only way forward for soil health and human health because no soil, no food, right? And I mean,
Yes,
I don't think there's enough importance being put upon. I mean, for example, you took the brave step, right, to move from what you were doing with beef, dairy, to move towards growing crops and grains and oats and beans. I mean, the government should be subsidizing people like you in huge amounts because that could be an incredible way of feeding the UK, never mind exporting the food elsewhere, right?
yes, you're correct. Well, I'll just go on. Well, now you've mentioned it, I'll just give a brief synopsis of the government policy. Well, as everyone may be aware, pre-Brexit, the UK was obviously we were obviously members of the EU,
Yeah.
and under the EU, agricultural policy was implemented and determined by the CAP, which was the Common Agricultural Policy. But just pre-Brexit, the CAP had changed again. Actually, it had changed in 2015. There's been about, in my lifetime, about four major remapping programs for agricultural subsidies. So the newest one at the time was the basic payment system, which is an area payment system. So regardless if what type of farming you did, for every hectare that you farmed or owned, you received a set amount from the EU governments. So there was really the only incentive under the basic payments system was to keep land in good agricultural condition. You didn't actually have to produce anything, to be honest.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
I do hear sometimes where people say animal agriculture is heavily subsidized, but by law and by definition, it's not. It was decoupled. Well, we started decoupling subsidies back in 1990. So it's technically not correct to say we are heavily subsidizing animal agriculture. Well, certainly not now in the UK and Europe, to be honest. So obviously UK, we had Brexit. So post Brexit, agricultural policy came back into the realms of UK government. So we devised a revolutionary, world-class new system. Actually, it was called ELMS, which was the Environmental Land Management System. It was to coordinate and satisfy the requirements of the government's 25-year environmental plan or network. So that's the relationship there between it was for environmental good, or the economic definition is public goods. So farmers were all being rewarded for the care and attention of soil, air, water, and public wellness. So it is a major revolutionary step away from production agricultural economic subsidies. So under the ELM scheme, there are still three pillars. The SFI, which is the Sustainable Farming Incentive,
Right.
that's the main form of income for farmers. It rewards, there's about 100 actions now which rewards farmers for adopting certain methods or principles on their farms, specifically about air, water, and soil. The secondary tier was local nature recovery. So, for example, say in Dorset, I have a brook running the perimeter of my farm, Northwood Farm. So, for example, the local council wanted to restore biodiversity in that brook. We would collaborate with about 10 or 12 neighbouring farms and deliver those outcomes. And then the third tier is the national recovery. So that's large scale strategic targets like the restoration of peat bogs, I should say, and also large scale tree planting. So there's three tiers to the agricultural system now. I should say that this under the Labour government. Under the Labour government, it's the subsidy system, well, the ELMS system is now frozen due to due to budgetary constraints, I should say, because so we now have to wait to 2026. Hopefully by June of next year, we will know the outcome of the revised scheme. But all I can say is we now know that the funding will be decreased.
Wow.
We have in the UK, we have about a 2.6 billion agricultural budget. Historically, it was 3.1 under the CAP. So in real terms, we are seeing a decrease year on year. So our main concern at the moment is certainly the SFI scheme is we won't be able to earn as much money from these environmental schemes as previously hoped, which is critical to a plant-based transition.
Of course.
To what your concerns and to the Or
Yeah.
this goes out to all the vegan NGOs, anyone who's against animal agriculture. We've really had the floor taken from under our feet, plant-based farmers.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to destroy plant-based farming, then this current Labour government's certainly making a good job of it.
Well, it's a really interesting thing to consider. You know, you mentioned earlier about subsidizing,
Yeah.
but in a sense, government policies, when they come down the way that you've just described, those are indirect subsidies. If the government is promoting a particular approach to agriculture over other approaches to agriculture, then that is a backdoor subsidy, right?
It's not actually. One could argue, yes, you're sort of saying, yes, there's public money going into agriculture. That's your reasoning, but it's not. It's again, just to repeat, it's going into public goods. So it's not actually going into the products I sell. It's going into the management outcomes of soil, air, and water.
Right.
So what one can't argue it's subsidizing organic livestock or regenerative farming because it is by law it's not. So it's important that we stop having this narrative discussed because it can sort of distort the true picture. That's obviously not meant as a prejudiced remark, but it's important that we get away from the idea of subsidies. We technically don't have subsidies anymore. So we have subsidies, obviously, in other countries around the world, but specifically in England, because obviously we have the devolved regions. It's a world-class example of how to spend public money.
Yeah, my God.
It's got to be applauded. It's got. I wish people would support or stand up more for the Elm scheme because it's groundbreaking. Pardon.
Yeah, that is groundbreaking, and it's the only thing that's working out fair. I mean, if you look back in your family's life, even or your farm, you know, you had been producing dairy for 60 years, right? And I mean, what a switch now focusing on plant-based agriculture. And I remember, you know, reading about how you had turned the former cow sheds, they're all converted into grain storage and the milking parlours are being turned into milling units. I mean, you know, there should be huge amounts of money. I don't know how we get this happening. And I don't know, raising funds or fighting and lobbying governments to support this incredible transformation because it's the only way forward. I mean,
well, from the questions from Bill sent me, yes, it's one of the main barriers for any farmer transitioning is access to capital
sure.
and suitable markets. Once you go, we're in the actual at the moment in agriculture. We're in the classic up horn down corn cycle where animal agriculture is booming.
Yeah.
And plant-based agriculture is in quite a deep depression now. Since June, actually, the price of grains have come down even more. So we're at historic lows. I should say grain prices they're less than half the true of the real costs than 60 years ago. It's incredible how cheap grain and combinable crops are at the moment. The consumers never had it so good, so to speak. We know people go on about the cost of food, but the farm gate prices are at historical lows. So
it's incredible. I mean, I'm sorry, Lawrence, it's just unbelievable. And the work and the hard work that goes into being a farmer and producing these grains and beans and crops. And now, you know, you're growing all these fava beans and you can't even sell them here in the UK. You're having to export them, I think, was it to Egypt because they're not being
well, again, this is farmers are more than happy, or they are committed. There's a lot of pioneering farmers who are growing pulses and legumes. There's one particularly who's been on the social media as the first farmer to grow capula beans, which are used for baked beans. So there is some really good pioneers out there doing this job. Um, Acting as the pathway to a better future. It's amazing. He's working with Warwickshire University, so it's amazing the progress we're making on legumes and pulses. Yeah, your remark about having to send pulses abroad. Well, that's simply because consumers don't like to consume a lot of pulses. They
I
prefer
know, and it means like people like me have to work harder. You know, I have a whole thing called Marlene Queen of Beans, and
yeah,
everybody that crosses my path, they come and they learn with us how to cook pulses and beans and grains. It's what we live on. We've lived on for decades and decades. We look back to the ancestors, to the whole ethos of what's happening in the planet, from dietary changes, and then all these crazy meat-based, heavy-based diets are coming back again. So we have to just keep working, and it's education. It's the only tool we have to bring about change. And even when people cross Bill and I's path, when they come and study with us to be either teachers or whatever, or just for personal development, they've never been exposed to this information. So when we're in this bubble, and we've all known this for decades and decades, it's like, how do you reach out and bring people in? And we never stop, Lawrence. Honestly, we go
yeah.
into schools, we do projects through our human ecology project, we teach kids vegan burgers and all sorts. We reach out to communities, and that's the only thing that's going to change. But to get back to you, I mean, people have no idea what it is to be a farmer. They have no understanding of soil. They have no understanding of the work it takes, even to grow a grain, a crop of grain, you
I'll
know?
just give you a quick fact. In Western society, it's only about 1.2% of the population is involved in food production.
Yep.
So you can see how the societies become disconnected.
Mm.
When you sort of observe of what's going around, it's logic would dictate. Well, we can see why we're in this situation, because
Yeah.
if now if only such a small percentage of are actively involved,
Mm.
then yeah, but then I'd say that the answer to that is education.
Of
Yeah.
So
course. Always,
yeah,
always. Yeah. I mean, Bill Tara, you've been doing this, what, 57 years teaching?
Yep. Yep.
And where are we now? But you know, the thing is, people
Well,
like you,
we're better than we were 2 decades ago.
yeah,
But
and
not much, not enough.
and trailblazers like you, Lawrence, who are, coming out of, I mean, really a completely different world into what you're doing now. The support has to be there. And Bill and I were discussing with our human ecology project if there was some way we could try and work in and help. So we're putting our heads together about that. And hopefully, we can try and help get funding and different things happening as well, because we're all in it together, right? With
yes,
farmers,
yes,
without you guys, we don't have the grains and the pulses to teach people how to cook them in their kitchen, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
it's well, my late mother was, funny enough, a home economics teacher.
Right.
She taught a lot of students. So actually, she was at college with Mary Berry in
Right.
Bath. So that's my late mother's claim to fame. So yeah. So yes, as she said, it's so many people these days. Well, I suspect well, she used to tell me when I was a child that
Yeah.
the number of people who couldn't just do basic scratch cooking, and
No.
I expect today it's far worse.
Oh,
Yeah.
it is. I mean,
people just go out to the nearest takeaway and get
yeah.
their meals.
And
So
buy something out of a box. And Bill and I often say you'd be as well eating the cardboard box. There's more nutrition in the cardboard than there is in what you're eating that's inside it, you know.
yes,
You've spoken about the fact that some of your lands must be used to raise crops for animal feed because there's not enough income in trying to sell
um,
grain for human consumption.
well, te technically, that most organic farmers, I'm not purposely looking to sow crops
Right.
for animal feed. What in the conventional sector, critical mass is critical. All farms have to cover their base costs, which is
Sure.
their overheads. So animal agriculture is a large customer specifically for conventional crop farms. In this country alone, about 60 to 70% of the wheat is fed to animals, mainly to the
Yeah.
white meat sector, poultry. So it's the only reason at the moment with wheat prices about 160, 165 pounds a ton. If we did not have animal agriculture, these farmers would simply go out of business. It's that simple. It is a critical market. It's even an important market to me because in the organics sector, just with particular reference to animal feed, it's actually dairy farming, which is the largest feed customer in the UK, and then the dairy cows consume over 100,000 tons of organic grain in this country. So yes, it's important for critical mass, but as an organic farmer, it's it's my principal safety net. What do I mean by safety net? Well, when I put crops in the ground, obviously I'm looking to get them to a standard for human production, say porridge oats or fava beans for obviously the Egyptian market, wheat for biscuits, bread, pasta, etc., cakes. So if any of those grains or beans fall out of the specification in my contracts, then I have to sell it to the animal feed market.
Right.
So otherwise, I've got no income.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I can't grow a crop. Well, could you say do a job for say 12 months of the year and you were going to be paid that
No.
annual salary in say in month 12, and someone came to you and said, I'm sorry, Bill, I will only be giving you half of that annual salary. Well,
That sounds good.
you wouldn't be able to pay your bills or mortgage.
Exactly.
So it's
Exactly.
exactly the same for an arable farmer.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
the people that are doing the most important work on the planet, like farmers growing food, are the ones that they're earning peanuts. It's
Yeah.
outrageous. They're earning peanuts.
Well,
Honestly.
this is the absurd situation we're in, is the actual feed wheat price, well, it's only about £20 a ton less than what the market is for biscuits and cake flour or plain flour. So that equates to about 2 pence a kilo. So for the privilege of getting grain to a human consumption specification, they're rewarding me with 2 pence.
Right.
No, and that's why
Yeah.
we wanted to expose and put you out on our human ecology project because you are about human ecology, and just try and let the world see what you guys are up against. I mean, it's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
I've also got to. I know all farmers do this. Have a moan with the supermarkets
Sure.
because, again, I think the supermarkets are profiting too much from organic produce because
Sure.
the other question you asked is what's the main barrier from why people don't consume more organic or veganic produce is the cost. So again, I've just given you the example. Is we're only talking pennies, and I expect in the horticultural world, yeah, so Ian Tolhurst would tell you,
Yeah.
it's only pennies more he receives for his organic produce than for conventional. So why did a supermarket sort of up the premium by sometimes 100%? Or
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the organic premiums are in the supermarket, but I know it's a lot.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
so I think the supermarkets have to be less greedy. The other obviously the reason for the higher cost is when we grade all our fruit and vegetables, they go off to the pack houses.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the supermarkets can reject up to 40 or 50%
Right.
of that incoming crop.
That's
Right.
right.
So that means that's, well, again, 40 or 50% of that crop is the farmer's not going to get that premium price.
No.
That goes off, incidentally, that goes off to the animal feed market again. That's
Right.
another example of animal agriculture
Yeah.
subsidizing
Yeah.
the,
No,
the food system. So yeah, but the reality is, if we all prepared to set wonky vegetables or slightly smaller vegetables,
sure.
none of this has to be
Sure.
wasted. I know, again, just making reference to Ian Tolhurst, he has his vegetable box scheme and also a shop on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
And I expect most of his customers aren't fussy if they have to have wonky
No,
vegetables.
absolutely not. Absolutely. I mean,
Well,
I
As
used
long
to,
as it's good nutritional food, I'm
yeah.
sure they're more than
I
happy
used
yeah.
to
to.
grow. I used to grow all my own vegetables in Scotland before we moved and lived in Portugal and everywhere else. And I had the wonkiest carrots, ones with two legs and all sorts.
Yes.
And I grew everything without, it was organic, veganic, actually no animal manure either. I used to use cover crops and I had the most delicious wonky food or whatever you want to call it. No, the supermarkets are a huge nightmare for the farmers. It's all power and greed and it's not about truth and justice. So Lawrence, we love you. We thank you for your work in the world. We have to keep pushing out and doing what we can to help
Yeah.
trailblazers like you that are trying to produce incredible healthy soil for food for human consumption. And we just got to find people that can put their shoulder to the wheel and help.
Yeah.
I think being positive. Since I started this veganic journey, more people do know what veganic means
Yes, they
because
do.
you used to mention. Well, funny enough, a lot of the people I've been working with didn't know what veganic was when I first met them,
Right.
and
Exactly.
they were
No.
long-term vegans.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so yeah, so it's come a long way. So
Absolutely. And now the
yeah,
veganic map's there and people can join the veganic map
yes,
around the world
yes.
and pop their little location up there and connect. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
the other suggestion I have is like with the certification schemes. If we just created one, I think there would be less duplication and repetition,
Mhm.
and most importantly, it wouldn't confuse the consumer. If they're just looking for one logo,
Yeah.
there's more of a chance of market uptake.
Yes,
I
perfect.
think when people walk into supermarkets these days, there's so many labels
Yeah.
on products, they just simply get confused. So if we are going to upscale veganic the veganic markets, common sense would dictate that's just have
That's the standard
one
logo.
standard.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
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 Yeah. Makes
Above the
sense.
Soil Association, Veganic Standard is the perfect logo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes, definitely.
Well, it was an absolute joy to hear from you, and
Yeah. Thank you very much.
we absolutely applaud you, Lawrence, and we give thanks to you, for continuing on this incredible, one of the leaders, and we will get to meet you one day for sure, but I'll post you a copy of our last books down to Dorset, and hopefully, if you're up in the area up here in the sheep
Thank you.
farming village, have lunch. So,
I should say I've got to say this. This is quite a big news event for me, for the Northwood Farm actually. Well, this last week we had the chief planning officer from my local council out on the farm, because what one problem farmers have, well, livestock farmers have, that we have lots of sheds on former livestock
yeah.
sheds and just laying empty. So we've managed to get planning permission to create some holiday lets, and
Oh,
also
wonderful.
I'm going to convert my Dutch barn into hopefully a conference centre, or even a little cookery school. So
Fantastic.
I'll invite when it's all up and running. I'll certainly invite you along to host some talks and
Absolutely,
cookery.
that would
So
be a great
Fantastic.
joy. That would be a great joy. We have our kind of flagship program is called the Ultimate Health Experience, and we had our own place before, our Life Learning Zone, and people loved it. They have presentations and talks with Bill and I. I do cooking demonstrations. We have a wonderful lunch. I usually do some yoga. It's great fun. So yes, get the Ultimate Health Experience happening in Dorset. We'll be down to join you.
yes,
Fantastic.
that's right.
Great
Okay.
food, great fun, and I mean, just that's the joy of what we do, Lawrence, right? So that's fantastic. Well, we look forward to being in touch again soon, and thank you so much for sharing your wonderful
Yes.
passion. Your
Yes.
passion.
Thank you.
Been a privilege meeting you both. So
Okay,
Thank you.
well, and you, Lawrence, million thanks. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Bye now.